Viewers and subscribers, welcome back to Beating the Press podcast. I am your host, Rafa. Now, coming up in today's podcast, we're going to be reviewing the two big matches that took place over the weekend and talk some EPL football. Now, returning to the podcast, we have Leon.
Always a pleasure to be on the podcast, viewers and subscribers.
We also have Christophe.
Good to be back, viewers.
Yes, indeed, gents. Welcome back, and we're gonna jump straight into talking some football. I mean, a number of games, some big results taking place over the weekend. Spurs versus Brighton, Leon. That one ending 2-1 for Spurs right at the death. Talk to us about that game, Leon.
Well, I think with Spurs and Brighton, they both play expansive football, so it was always going to be a game of chances, and it was always going to come down to who was more clinical. And as we saw during the matches, there was a lot of wasted opportunities for both team, and just turns out it turns in Spurs' favor for last match. But I honestly think any team could have won because it was
Yeah,
very
it was a
open-ended.
back and forth game, lots of chances, lots of defensive errors as well coming from the high press and some poor decision in terms of the build-up play by the goalkeepers. I mean, from the jump, we saw Welbeck getting a chance in the first minute. And then later on, drawing a penalty, which Pascal Gratz put away. But Christoph, how did you see it? I mean, Spurs getting the results, looking as if they're a team to contend with going forward.
I think I predicted this one, right? 2-1 Spurs.
Right.
I said it would be a hard-fought victory for whoever won. And we saw that coming to fruition. There were chances there. I think Spurs had maybe 3 shots on target. Brighton only had one, so it was down to who was more clinical on the day, so to speak. But Spurs did throw a couple of surprises, in my opinion. I was expecting players like Son and I think Madison to start. Madison did start. I was expecting Son to start. I was not expecting him on the bench. So that was interesting.
Well, I mean, as I had mentioned in the previous show as well, I mean, Son coming back could have disrupted the whole Spurs chemistry, which it seemed as if the coach felt that way as well. So rather than start him from the jump, he pretty much eased him into the game. And of course, we saw the impact he had. It was he who provided that assist for that Brendan Johnson finish. And it was just fresh legs and quality down that flank, which led to that goal.
Indeed, but we don't know if him starting would have had a more positive effect. I mean, he did come on, got that assist, but maybe if he had started, it would have been a different game.
Could have been, but I mean, the result is gonna obviously justify the coach's decision,
At this point in time, yes.
Hindsight, they say, is 2020. So
2020.
I felt looking at this game that was the right decision as well. It didn't make sense to force Son back into the team with the team doing fairly well in his absence. So bringing him on as a sub, him coming in, getting an assist, getting back amongst the team, building a little confidence, building some momentum. So I pretty much expect for the next game for Son to be playing from the jump. So come the next game for Spurs, Son should be there up and running. But again, Brighton, that defensive fragility, Leon, they seem not to be able to keep the ball out of the back of their net game after game after game.
I mean, with Brighton and how they play, you would have to say if their team doesn't show up, or if a couple players doesn't show up based on how expansive they are, it's always going to be a problem. And we can see that they've been struggling with the defensive aspect. I don't think their press is that coordinated all the time. I think sometimes they have defensive lapses, and even with the high presses today, you can see like bad decisions. So I just think with Brighton, with De Zerbi, they always go through this each season. Sometimes they're playing excellent football, and then they drop off for a couple weeks, and then they come back again. So I think it's a theme with Brighton. They're up and
Yeah, I
down.
mean, De Zerbi has to be asked some questions at this point, Leon. I mean, defensively, they seem not to be able to get it right. And that is my concern with this Brighton team. I mean, is it a case where De Zerbi can't formulate a team defensive scheme to prevent goals, Leon? Is it that he is lacking in the department as a coach?
I mean, with Brighton, it's always going to be the case because before this, they were playing excellent. There was no questions been asked about the Zerbi, and I think that's one of the main points for coaches who doesn't coach at one of those clubs that demands a lot, right? In this period, Brighton isn't performing well. There's no really big questions being asked, but as soon as Brighton starts to do well again, you hear that the Zerbi is this great tactician, but
Well, I am asking that question, Leon, because I am not too sure about his defensive prowess as a coach. I mean, Brighton is conceding way too many goals, and this is not a one-off game. This has been the theme throughout the entire season, up to 23 games. Oftentimes it's not a case where they keep a clean sheet. It's just a case of them outscoring their
outscoring.
opponents. But they always seem to be giving up goals. And this was another example of giving up goals, which in this case, right at the death, around 96 plus minutes, and that was game set match at that point in time.
I mean, I think it's something that these coaches get away with, the defensive aspect of it. Once you're playing so-called brilliant football, everyone seems to forget about the defensive aspect of the game. And as you said with Brighton, it was always about outscoring teams. And especially, as I said, with them deserving being at that type of club, I don't think you will ever see it being brought to question, unless he moves to a bigger club where they are, let's say, challenging for the title when we know that being defensively tight, it makes a lot of change, a lot of difference during like title winning runs and those stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and it could come into question, Brighton, what now in 11th, I believe. I think
Yeah,
a point below Chelsea. And if they continue with this sort of form, they may be dragged into a relegation fight where then the defense will come under question and come under scrutiny. But Christophe, at this point in time, where can we see Brighton or Spurs finishing in this
Tottenham.
moment? Right.
Right now, Tottenham will be in that top six. I'm not certain on a position as yet. I would say fourth at the moment, but we know Aston Villa is pushing hard, but they lost to Man U, so they've lost, two in the last five, drop points in three of the last five. So I certainly feel like I did say Aston Villa might run out of steam later in the season. It's starting to look like that, but not certain as yet. Brighton will finish probably somewhere mid-table, 10th, 9th, 8th, somewhere there. They won't make it to the top six, I don't think. Tottenham, I'm going to say top four, fourth or fifth, I think. They will not be top three.
Yeah, I mean, definitely still a lot of football to play, and that gives us the opportunity to pretty much segue into our next game, Leon. We see Manchester United, your team, from over there, picking
Yeah.
up another win, Leon. What's that now? 3 back-to-back wins in the EPL. Talk to us about that game,
Yeah,
Leon. Aston Villa versus United.
I think we're on a little bit of run. I would say four in total competition. But as you said, I think for this match, it was always crucial that we came away from this match not losing and especially winning. And it worked out in our favor. I think the first 30 minutes from us were good. But after we scored, Aston Villa came a lot into the game. And you can say Manchester United was lucky in some aspect because Aston Villa did create a couple clear opportunities. And Onana was in form, our defensive players was in form. And you'd say for this match, especially when you would say you leave it up to like the back four, you could say that Man United was under pressure. But I think it was a key match not to lose. And some of these matches you have to be able to go away to away grounds and gain key results. And now Manchester United is five, I think, of the top four. So it's still we still have a little bit of chance. I would say something to play for the ending. And because of how the season went, I could say it's a decent result. We didn't play well, but the result was good.
Yes, definitely a good result for Manchester United, but a poor one for Aston Villa. But Christophe, where did Aston Villa go wrong in this one? I mean, what's going on over there at Villa Park?
Um, on the part of Manu, I don't know if they were just defensively better or they were just lucky on the day. but Aston Villa was peppering that goal. I think it was just down to Aston Villa not being clinical enough on the day, and maybe a bit of bad luck. Man U, however, we do see where they seem to be picking up steam. I think what they did beat Aston Villa in the first
right?
game, so
Yeah,
they beat
3-2.
Villa. They beat Villa twice. So
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, Emery seemed peeved on the bench. I mean,
no,
when
no,
they
no.
conceded that second goal. But to me, it was
Big,
Emery's error. Tactically, when he took Bailey off and brought on Tillemans, I believe, I thought that was the turning point of the game. At that
right.
point, Bailey was playing brilliantly and really troubling the Manchester United fullbacks. So that change surprised me. And not only was that change surprising, but it's the personnel who he brought on. He brought on a central midfielder instead of bringing on another winger, such as a Diaby, who came on later in the game. But to me, that was the turning point. I thought Bailey had good momentum, was playing well, and should have stayed on. And who to tell, the result may have been different.
Maybe it's a case where Emery is starting to doubt himself, and he was attempting there to try and sit for the draw, possibly. But I like I said, I thought they would start to run out of steam in the later half of this season. You know, they've dropped points in in three of their last five. Man U is picking up steam. Um, I do say there was a bit of bad luck on their part. Man U had a bit of luck with some of those saves that Onana and defense kept out. But it was probably down to more clinical finishing. Had Aston Villa taken a couple more of the chances that they got, it would have been a much different game.
Yes, definitely. I would say Manu probably got the up to lead the play leading up to the goal. I thought the game was Manu, but up to the first goal. But ever since after that first goal, it was all Aston Villa, in all honesty.
Yeah,
While
I
not necessarily, I would say, creating some good chances. I mean, Ole Watkins got a few, Ramsey got a few, the defenders were blocking shots. Onana was making a few saves, but that killer instinct, that decisiveness up front was just missing from the Aston Villa team. And, at times Manchester United rode their luck. But I thought Ten Hag, credit must be given to Ten Hag, in all honesty, Leon, for this one.
definitely.
I thought he outwitted Emery, and you could see that on the sidelines where Ten Hag was pretty much pulling the strings, and Emery could just not find an answer from a tactical point of view. And I mean, we spoke about it in the preview that Manchester United's route to win these games was always gonna be on the counter attack, but yet Emery again failing to really stifle that United counter. And to their detriment, they ended up losing this one 2-1.
But I think that could be one of the main criticisms of Unai Emery. We know that he's very stubborn with his tactics because I think despite the opponent he plays, it's always a high line, right? So we
Right.
know that definitely the only thing Manchester United got going for them this season is counter-attacking. Manchester United play some of their best football counter-attacking. Their problem is whenever they meet opponents where Manchester United have to take the play to opponents, they normally struggle. So anybody could see that, but I guess it's Emery stubbornness. And you said the substitution also didn't make any sense because Tillemans for
Yeah,
Bailey, it was always going to be less attacking. And with Ten Hag, they might say Ten Hag taking off Rashford from McTominay would be a defensive change. But based on how our games are going since season, McTominay has been one of our main goal threats. So I
right.
think
Especially off the bench as well. I think
so
he has had a number of goals coming off the bench late in games, and this was another classic example.
I think he's Manchester United top scorer if I'm not mistaken. So I think Ten Hag was more adventurous than Unai Emery, and it ended out working out in the end for Ten Hag.
Yeah, definitely. I was locked in on that game, Leon, and when I saw Bailey coming off after providing an assist for that equalizing goal, I was quite and again, I was thinking, all right, Bailey's off. You're gonna bring on another winger in the like of a Diaby who's gonna run at these tired defenses. But in came Tillemans. I just thought that was the turning point in the game. I thought at that point, Aston Villa should have gone for the kill, but instead it seemed as if they took a more neutral approach, Manchester United went ahead, and at that point in time, Aston Villa was now chasing the game. They did manage to carve out a couple of opportunities. Diaby, I thought, was a bit wasteful when he came on. He did get a few, half chances or opportunities to shoot, and I just thought he didn't make the most of it as well. Watkins got an opportunity as well, which he headed straight at Onana. So the chances were there, but Aston Villa just could not find an equalizer. And as I said, hats off to Ten Hag in again walking away with another 3 points in the bag.
Yeah, I think it's a good it was a decent result when you take into consideration we have Luton next week, which would be a very winnable fixture. So I think coming from this game with a win is always a positive for Ten Hag, and we're starting to get back a lot of our starters. So the style of play is increasing a little bit, not very much. We still can't control games, and even if we do control game, it's like for 30 minutes or for 50 minutes in the game, which controlling the game for 50 minutes, you're always going to let the opponent back in. And as you see, Manchester United, we're always having close games. And that's one of the reasons because we're failing to control matches. And that's always going to be a worry for me.
Definitely, that is a hallmark characteristics of top teams, Leon. That ability to control and dictate the pace of a game. And we see that from you could say the current top four or top five in the league right now. All those teams have the ability to control the game, pretty much to click into gear if needs be, or slow down the game and manage the game on the other hand. But that has been lacking from United all season, and from Ten Hag in general since he has been brought to the club. And that has been one of the most surprising characteristics of this Ten Hag era, in my opinion. But I harbor no hopes of that changing, to be honest. I mean, if you can't impose your style of play for 2 years, I'm not sure if you're going to do it in your third year. But Christophe, where do you see this United team finishing come end of season? And what are the prospects of Aston Villa? Will they continue to slide, or can they bounce back and retain their top four position?
Well, for Aston Villa, I said I thought they'd lose steam. It is too early to say explicitly that is what is happening. But right now, I think they'll finish just outside of the top four, maybe fifth or sixth. United will finish in a similar vein, fifth or sixth. I don't think they'll be making the top four. They could, because Tottenham at the end of the season does have a tendency to slide, drop points. But United probably won't play Champions League football next season. I would go with fifth, sixth for them as well.
Leon, I mean, at this point in time, if Aston Villa fail to finish in the top four, Leon, wouldn't Aston Villa feel rather disappointed having occupied that position for pretty much more than half of the season
Most
to then
definitely.
finish outside of the top four?
Most definitely. I think these club expectation changes throughout the season based on where Aston Villa was. I think you'd be right if you say the fans could feel a little bit disappointed if they finished outside of the top four. But I think for Aston Villa, any place with inside Europe would be a good season regardless. But gaining the opportunity to finish top four and not finish would be a massive disappointment. And
Definitely.
especially with a coach of Unai Emery caliber, you'd expect he has the experience to pull through, but they are stuttering at the moment, and let's
Yeah,
see.
definitely. I mean, it would be rather disappointing for me at least, from a, just a fun point of view. I mean, to see Aston Villa really punching above their weight, in all honesty. I don't think anyone really had Aston Villa in their top four at the start of the season, but they have defied all the odds, have been occupying that position for more than half of the season, I would say. So if they were to finish outside the top four, it would be a tremendous disappointment, not only for the fans, but I'm sure for the players as well. So that's definitely the motivation. They now have to pick themselves up and fight on, because the games are coming thick and fast. And coming up as well, we see the resumption of the Champions League and the Europa Leagues as well, starting this week. So that's another competition to look forward to. And as Christoph has been saying, the squad depth will be tested. Now is the time when teams with a deep squad can call upon some of those more rested players to really come in, maybe as a starter, as a sub, and really put in a shift. And that may be the difference between fading away, as is often the case, or maintaining your status or even improving on your position going forward. But lots of football still to play, Leon, and there were a number of other matches taking place, Leon. I mean, Christophe, I'll come to you on this one. I told you in the preview that it would have been a walk in the park for Arsenal. Talk to us about that game. That 6-0 must have your appreciation, Christoph.
It ended up being
did they tick all the boxes for you? Is the question.
It ended up being an impressive victory in the end, but I think maybe the set piece coach has to be the one to get all the credit, because it was those two set piece goals that really opened up the game for Arsenal. Because before that, you went 40 minutes, no goal, and then you get a set piece, boom. Just before halftime, you get another one. It's those two set piece really is what killed West Ham, and then as such they were always chasing the game afterward, and then to get four so quickly, it really just I think it messed up what's his name, halftime talk, what he was going to ask them to do, or instructions he was probably going to give at halftime, because now you're chasing a game 4-0. They had to try and get something back, and then that kind of went to their detriment, because Arsenal then just hit them on the counter attack.
Yeah, definitely an impressive performance by Arsenal dearly, but West Ham rather disappointing, I must say. Another toothless display by Moyes. It's back-to-back toothless displays, a poor display away to Manchester United, followed by a poor display at home, or an even poorer display, I must say. It was I'm not sure how to characterize that performance by West Ham, in all honesty.
I think David Moyes has a lot to do when it comes down to organization. One thing you can credit with a David Moyes team is defensive stability, and as you see, it's far from that now. And probably losing out to losing Paqueta had something to do with the overall playing of the team. But as you said, there are no defensive stability, and after 4-0 at halftime, the only thing could have happened is damage control. And as you said, they came out trying to make account of themselves, and with the front line that Arsenal has and the passing capability, was always a matter of time of how much Arsenal could get. And I think for Arsenal, it's an expressive victory. It's about time that they won a match very comfortable from early. Gives these players mentally just a break. Just like I know they probably came in with an expectation of it being a more harder victory, a harder match, but leading 4-0, I think the second half was just cruising for Arsenal. And I think these wins are key in a title race, getting the match over as quickly as possible so that you can rest some players and give other players opportunities to play.
Definitely a sound point there, Leon. I must concur with your assessment there, especially in terms of the player management that we saw from Arteta pretty much around the 65th, 78th minute. All of the big boys were pretty much taken off, and a few squad players got a run out. But I must say, Leon, in terms of the West Ham team, I believe Moyes needs a defensive rebuild from the goalkeeper, centre backs, full backs, and of course that number 9 is still lacking up front. That has been a perennial problem for West Ham, and until Moyes can get that part of the team correct, this team is always going to be under pressure. Goals change matches, and West Ham is just not scoring a lot of goals these days. And not only are they not scoring, but they are not keeping any sort of clean sheet or any sort of defensive solidity. I just think these defenders are just not good enough, to be honest with you, Leon. And in the summer, Moyes need a defensive rebuild. I think both goalkeepers are just not good enough. I don't believe they are first choice Premier League quality goalkeepers. Second string, yes, but not your number one if you wish to move forward with a team with the sort of fan base of a West Ham. So those are some key positions I think West Ham need to be looking at in the summer coming up. They got a lot of money for Rice. Much of that money was reinvested on a few players. But I think defensively, they need a defensive rebuild going forward. Otherwise, they may be fighting relegation come next season, or even if their form continue for this season, who to tell, they may be drawn down into a relegation battle, because the boys at the bottom are definitely putting up a fight, especially Luton. Luton is not giving an inch. They are definitely fighting their way to the bitter end. If they were to be relegated, they cannot say they did not put up a stern test. They didn't just come to the league to participate, but they're definitely putting in an effort to my surprise, I must admit, I thought they would have been the league's beaten stick, in all honesty, but they are definitely punching above their weight, and it's actually the reverse. It seems as if it's Burnley who is the league's beaten stick. We see Liverpool getting the better of them 3-1. Leon, how did you see that one? What are your thoughts on that game?
I think with Burnley, I think Burnley was always going to struggle in the Premier League, to be honest, just because of their style of play. You know that based on Vincent's company style of play and his expansive football, it works brilliantly in the Champions League, in the Championship, but coming to the Premier League, when majority of the teams will be better than you, you can't go to majority of these teams and play expansive football, and it was always going to be harder for Burnley than Luton that can adapt to each opponent better. So with Burnley, I think it has to be. I think Vincent Company has to make his team much more compact. I think he has been trying to do it, but it was always going to be a harder for Burnley. And with Liverpool, I think Liverpool with major injuries to Salah, I think they're giving. I think Jota is a marksman, to be honest. I think he's giving a good account of himself, but he always do. I think he's finding the goal as he usually does, and I think Liverpool just needs to keep as close as possible, because with Liverpool they have been in title races and they know how to do it. It's just as to give yourself the chance, right? And Salah coming back will add more vigor to their attacking lineup. So I think Liverpool is doing good, especially with the Klopp change of management coming. I think they will be having more like mental. They want to send him off greatly, so it's all working in favor of Liverpool. I would say it's the best like possible outcomes coming together. I just think they need to have their head down and just give a good account of themselves, and I think they have been doing that.
Yeah, indeed. It seems that narrative, Leon, have quickly disappeared from the fore, to be honest. When that news came about, it was all hands on decks from the big media houses in terms of reporting the imminent departure of Klopp come the end of this season. But subsequent results is as if that narrative have now been pushed to the background, and it's really all eyes on the actual football which is being played. And I mean, a run of good results have really done that. Since that announcement, I don't believe Liverpool have only lost one game, which was that game
That,
versus Arsenal.
do you,
So,
do you believe it was a tactical announcement, Rafa?
yes, I think the timing of it in terms of the sort of effect or impact it would have had on the team. I thought looking back, I think the announcement came at the right time for the general public. Obviously, it was known internally before, but in terms of the effect it has had on the team, I think it has been a positive one, and it should galvanize the team. I mean, Liverpool are still pretty much in all four competitions which they are participating in. They're already in one cup final, still in the FA Cup, still in the Europa League, and definitely challenging at the top of the table. But to me, it has always been Man City's league. To me, Liverpool is just keeping that top spot warm. I mean, by next week, Man City would have played their game in hand, and if all goes well, Man City should be leading the league by a point, in my opinion. Liverpool next game is against Brentford away from home, and I think they could slip up there, to be honest, Leon. Brentford, with the resurgence of Ivan Toney, is really playing some solid football, especially when they face the bigger teams. Their coach there always have a tactical plan in store. Even Man City, they gave a good account of themselves, even though they ended up losing. But ah, I'm still not very confident in this Liverpool defense, Leon, to be honest. I know they will get the goal, but can they keep the goals out? They are one of the top defensive teams in the league in terms of goals conceded when you look at the numbers. But when you look at the actual gameplay, chances are being created left, right, and center, and it's oftentimes some last-minute saves which is keeping them out of trouble, or some poor finishing. Because even in this game versus Burnley, Burnley got numerous opportunities to really put this game to bed or put Liverpool under pressure by scoring, a number of one-on-one opportunities with that Loney from Chelsea, and he pretty much failed to score. I mean, at this level in the Premier League, when you get one-on-one with keepers, that has to be a goal. And he got two such opportunities and failed to take any of them. And by virtue of that, the game was now there for Liverpool to take, which they took, and take all 3 points. So I'm not convinced by the Liverpool defense, to be honest with you, and I'm not too sure about their next game versus Burnley coming up. It might be that will be a very good test. That will be a very good litmus test to see if they can maintain pace at the top of the league. But Christoph, what's your view on the rest of the matches which took place this weekend? How do things look for you in the league in general? We saw Chelsea picking up a win today, for example.
If you count it all as one game week, it was a very high scoring weekend. Just going through. So it could be a case where a lot of the bigger teams seem to be picking up steam. Liverpool, City has not lost any has won all of their last 5. Arsenal seems to be picking up form. Tottenham is getting back there. Aston Villa might be losing steam. Man U has started picking up results and picking up form as well. So I think we're in for interesting final games for the rest of the season. Especially with the Champions League coming up, we will now see if these teams have plans to preserve their players, or how good their rotation will be, and where the focus will be for Liverpool, for City, for Arsenal. Will they maybe not play their very best players in the Champions League, in the Europa League, and decide to push on and try and win the league? Or will it be a case where they will spread over both fronts, and wherever you get that silverware, I guess. City will be trying to compete for the treble. Liverpool, probably their priority will be definitely the league, but they might decide that they want that Europa League as well. So
No, I think for Liverpool, for sure. I mean, the priority has always been the league from the jump, to be honest. I mean, through the entire first round, it has been the B/C team, which has really represented the club in the Europa League competition. And I really don't see that changing, especially with the position they're in now and the sort of laser-like focus that we see Man City with. I mean, I'm sure Klopp will be hoping that Pep takes his eye off the ball, so to speak, and pretty much turns his attention more so to the Champions League than even the league, in all honesty. But for Liverpool, for sure, the focus will be on the league. For the other teams, it's about management and rotation, to be honest. I don't really buy this argument that many managers have about players playing too many games. I really don't buy it, Leon, to be honest with you. I mean, we see with the introduction of 5 subs and coaches like Pep failing to even use one sub whole game when you have 5 at your disposal, and then you're then gonna complain that players are playing too many minutes, they're being overworked, they're fatigued, they're picking up injuries. To me, I rubbish those claims. I mean, at the end of the day, managers want to win, and in order to win, you're gonna put your best team out there, game in, game out. And to me, that's what Pep is doing, and that's what all the big managers are doing also. So even with the introduction of 5 subs, I really don't see that making any significant difference in terms of giving managers the ability to rest players, because once you're in the game, you're gonna keep your best players on the pitch unless you're making some sort of tactical change or you're forced into a change through injury. But I don't really buy that argument. So, I mean, on all competitions, you're going to be playing your best team or what you deem to be your best team. Maybe a change here or there, but in general, the core of your team is going to remain. And I'm not really anticipating or looking at any team making any wholesale changes, in all honesty. But it's definitely interesting to see how the rest of the season is going to play off. As Christoph mentioned, a number of teams are rounding into form. and it's gonna be a mouth-watering dash to the finish. This may be one of the closer races we might have, Leon, where oftentimes it's a two-horse race, but this season it seemed to be a three-horse race, Leon. Who do you think will come out the better of the three horses?
I think yeah, it's interesting. It's a very exciting race. I think I predicted Arsenal to win earlier. I think they're in fine form. I think they're going it they're going about this much more, I would say, with much more composure than last season. So I think they still have a chance. I think Man City always has a chance. It's up to what Man City comes with, to be honest. But I think after winning so much, I think Pep is really encouraging those players to keep their focus to make history, I guess, with a fourth in the row. So and between Liverpool always has the quality there. It's just that can they get it together defensively for the rest of the year. But as I said, it's a very exciting end of the league, and the closer the points are, the better it will be. We'll see who can keep their mettle, who can keep their composure, and who will separate the men from the boys, as they would say.
Definitely. When you look at those three teams up front, each team has its own set of different motivations, I would say. Pep chasing history, Liverpool wanting to send off Klopp on a high note. And of course, Arsenal, slipping last season, they would want to make up for last season and show that last season wasn't really a fluke, but they have grown into champions, so to speak. So it's definitely the script is written, Leon. It's just for each team to really tote the part, so to speak, and bring it to life. But we'll definitely see how it pans out. But lots of football still coming up. Some Champions League action coming up midweek, viewers and subscribers. So definitely we'll be here to preview the action coming up on the weekend in the EPL. But I'd just like to extend my thanks to Leon and Christophe for really coming on board and really sharing their thoughts and their opinions. We haven't seen Leon in a while, but a fresh perspective is always welcomed. And of course, you, the viewers and subscribers, thank you again for tuning in to us here on Beating the Press podcast. Thanks for the tremendous support over the period. Of course, please remember to continue to share, like, and if you haven't subscribed as yet, please hit that subscription bell. But until next time, this is Rafa signing off.